They opened a door that should have stayed locked. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel, where today I have another chilling horror story for you. So let's jump right into it. It was an old house, one of those with peeling paint and overgrown gardens that seemed to swallow the sunlight before it could touch the ground. It had been in Clara's family for generations, a silent sentinel watching over their lives through its dusty windows. For the longest time, it had remained empty, its rooms echoing with the ghosts of laughter and footsteps from days gone by. But now Clara and her husband James were moving in. They wanted to breathe new life into the old house, fill it once again with the sounds of a happy family. They had 2 kids, Lily and Max, whose bright eyes sparkled with excitement at the prospect of exploring their new home. As they began to unpack, the children ran through the house, their laughter ringing out like wind chimes. The house, while old, had a certain charm to it. The floorboards creaked a welcome tune, and the attic held the promise of hidden treasures. However, there was one room that remained off limits, the room at the end of the hall with a door sealed shut with a thick wooden plank. James had found it during an earlier inspection and had declared it off limits until he could figure out a way to open it safely. The day dragged on, filled with the mundane tasks of making a house a home, but the children's curiosity about the forbidden room only grew. Finally, when James was out and Clara was occupied, Lily and Max decided to take matters into their own hands. Armed with pillows and blankets, they tried to fashion a battering ram. Their plan was simple: hit the door till it gave way. But the old wood held firm, no matter how much they shoved against it. Then Max had an idea. He stepped back, took aim, and launched himself at the door, crashing into it like a tiny battering ram. The door swung open, revealing a dark and musty room. The children froze, their earlier bravado forgotten. Inside the room, cobwebs brushed against their faces as they ventured deeper. There was a rocking chair in the corner, its rhythmic creaking a haunting melody. On the wall hung a tarnished mirror, its surface cloudy as if weeping. But it was the writing on the wall that truly captured their attention. The children stared, their eyes wide with a mix of fear and fascination. The message was clear: beware. Suddenly, the temperature in the room seemed to drop, sending shivers down their spines. A gust of wind slammed the door shut, plunging them into darkness. The children screamed, their voices echoing through the empty house. Now trapped, they huddled together, trying to find the door in the pitch-black room. Panicked whispers filled the air as the minutes ticked by. Then, just as suddenly as it had started, the oppressive feeling lifted. The silence was broken only by their ragged breathing. When they finally found the door and stumbled out into the hallway, the house seemed different, colder somehow. Clara, hearing the commotion, rushed to the children, her heart pounding. She knelt down, her face etched with worry. Relieved to see that they were unharmed, she hugged them close, whispering soothing words. Later, when James returned, the children told him about the locked room and its eerie contents. Together, they decided to investigate. Armed with a flashlight and a crowbar, James approached the door. With a grunt of effort, he managed to pry it open. The room was dusty, the rocking chair and mirror undisturbed. The writing on the wall seemed to mock them. As they explored, James noticed something odd. The walls were lined with what looked like old newspaper clippings, their headlines screaming of tragedy and despair. Each clipping was dated exactly 100 years before, chronicling a series of unexplained deaths that had shaken the town. It was as if the room was a time capsule of sorrow. The most recent clipping detailed the mysterious demise of a young girl named Clara, who had lived in the house with her family. The article suggested foul play, but no one was ever held accountable. Overcome with a sudden sense of dread, James shut the door, effectively sealing away the room's secrets. As the weeks turned into months, the house slowly became a home filled with laughter, the warmth of family, and the scent of freshly baked cookies. The children's imaginations, however, had other plans. Lily and Max were playing when Lily stopped short, her gaze fixed on the closed door. "What's behind that door?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Before Max could respond, a gust of wind rattled the windows, and the old house groaned as if in response. The children exchanged a nervous glance. That night, as Clara and James were tucking the children into bed, Lily spoke up, her voice shaking. She told them about the whispering door and the creepy room. James and Clara exchanged a look. Was it their imaginations, or had the door actually made a sound? Comforting their frightened children, they promised to investigate. But even as they did, a part of them hoped they wouldn't find anything. Some things are best left undisturbed. But the next day, driven by a mix of parental concern and morbid curiosity, James decided to confront the door again. He found himself inexplicably drawn to it, as if it were calling to him. He could feel the energy beneath his fingers, a tangible aura of sadness and fear. This wasn't just an old house. It had a history, a story etched into its very core, and he was merely a chapter in its ongoing narrative. He pried the door open. Inside, the mirror seemed to stare back, its surface rippling like disturbed water. The rocking chair creaked rhythmically as though someone had just gotten up from it. The sight of the chair and the sound of its movement filled James with a sudden, inexplicable dread. He could almost feel the presence of the unseen observer, the weight of its gaze upon him. James's grip tightened on the crowbar. His breathing, which had been steady, quickened, becoming shallow and fast. As if stirred by some unseen force, the mirror in the corner caught his eye. It was old, its silvering worn and faded, yet it seemed to beckon him closer. Hesitantly, James approached it, half expecting to see a ghostly figure staring back. What he saw instead was his own reflection, his face ashen, eyes wide with dawning realization. In that moment, he understood. The room wasn't just holding on to the past, it was a part of it. The tragedies described in the articles weren't just events that had happened here, they were wounds that had been carved into the house's very being. Suddenly, the temperature in the room seemed to plummet, sending a shiver down his spine. A gust of wind slammed the door shut, plunging him into darkness. Panic surged through James, his heart pounding against his ribs like a trapped bird. He scrambled for the door, his fingers searching frantically for the handle in the pitch-black room. As he stumbled around, his foot caught on something, sending him sprawling onto the cold, hard floor. Gasping for breath, he reached out, his fingers brushing against cold, damp stone. When his eyes adjusted to the dim light filtering through the cracks in the boarded-up windows, he saw what he had tripped over. It was a small, intricately carved wooden box, its surface adorned with strange symbols that seemed to writhe and twist in the flickering light. As James stared, mesmerized by the box, a sudden gust of wind slammed the door shut, sealing him inside the room with whatever entity lurked within. In the ensuing moments, James felt an overwhelming sense of dread wash over him. His rational mind screamed at him to escape, to break free from the confines of that cursed room. But his body seemed paralyzed, locked in a vice-like grip of fear. The silence was shattered by a soft, insidious whisper that slithered through the room like a venomous snake. "Leave," it hissed, the word rasping and cold like the touch of a corpse. "Leave, and never return." But it wasn't just the voice that sent chills down his spine. It was the source. The voice seemed to emanate from the box, the very same box he had stumbled upon in the darkness. With trembling hands, James edged closer, his eyes wide with a mixture of terror and morbid curiosity. As he reached out to touch it, the box suddenly burst open, releasing a torrent of black smoke that billowed and twisted before his eyes. And that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe for more horror stories. See you next time.